Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker. Thank you so much for joining me. We appreciate it very, very much. Always glad to have with us one of the leaders in our area and somebody that we always look to for guidance and to find out what's happening with the schools and with our kids. Philip Martin here, Superintendent of Terrebonne Parish School System. Welcome back to the program, Philip.
Thank you, Keith. Glad to be here.
We appreciate it. You know, some of us who drive around and have a job where we kind of drive all over the parish are always kind of looking to see how things are going. Give us a little bit of an update of how we're doing with the schools.
Glad to. All the kids are in school. That's the good news.
That's the big thing, right? Let's start with that.
And I think we got kids back in school September 27th, if I remember correctly. Now, having said that, we have Band-Aids everywhere.
Sure.
The damages to schools, we did repairs, probably $30 million worth of repairs already.
Wow.
Most of those would be considered temporary repairs.
Right.
Temporary roofs, temporary walls, temporary drywall replacement. The amount of floors, drywall, ceiling tile, temporary roofs that were installed was phenomenal in a very short period of time.
In an incredibly short period of time.
And you know, that's a credit to our staff, who was very, very diligent in working with contractors. And our contractors understood the sense of urgency. We got to get kids back in school. And, you know, doing all that with the, you know, drying a school out, because when the roof blows off, we all know what happens, it gets wet.
Correct.
And then the concerns with, you know, electricity being off, and you have wet moisture inside a building that's closed up. Well, we all know we have concerns with mold and
mildew,
you know, mold, mildew, stuff like that. And, you know, it was a very exhaustive, expensive process of just at Houma Junior High. You know, the roof blew off, and it's a two-story building, and
water comes down.
And and that's just one example. And I could go down the list of many schools.
Right. We can spend hours
talking
about that.
You could take this one school and spend hours.
But one of the things that so many people are thinking that they're dealing with on a smaller scale is getting these contractors and construction out there and getting them timely and them showing up. Y'all had a remarkable response.
We had some pre-existing relationships with contractors that we had pre-arranged with. We do that every year. Mm-hmm. And hope you never need it in the event. Well, but this year we needed it.
Boy, did we need it.
So they were already on, you know, ready to go, so to speak. And the repairs, the emergency repairs, you can do them on an emergency basis.
Right. The Band-Aids, if you will.
It is a Band-Aid, and we don't have to go through the normal procurement methods to address emergencies. But and we did that.
Right.
And I think the only school that didn't have anything was Gibson, if you all know the truth. The one furthest north in the parish. All the other schools, many had catastrophic damage and many had major damage.
Right.
And even the ones with major damage, we were able to Band-Aid up, partition off, and open them up, dry them up, and like I said, change ceiling tiles, change wet insulation, change floors, change drywall, put up temporary walls in a very short period of time. That's why we were able to open and get our kids back in school.
And all done with verification, because we talked about this before, but I want people to really hear this. Done with verification that those buildings are safe, those buildings do not have mold in them, those buildings are dried, and certifications provided by those companies.
That is correct, Keith. And you know, obviously, it's everyone's concern is safety is first, whatever endeavor. And all of these drying the buildings out and were done by professionals. That's what they do.
Right.
It wasn't just anybody doing it.
Yeah.
And then they were laboratory tested to be sure, more than once, by the way, at each site, to be sure that every site was safe to have people in. Now, something that's not sometimes cosmetically not too good to look at doesn't make it dangerous.
Right.
You know, and we have a lot of things cosmetically not too good to look at, but we were very fortunate in that we were able to remediate. And look, there are a lot of buildings around this parish still are not opened.
Oh, God.
You know, so we were very fortunate that we were able to hit the ground running with contractors and professionals to begin immediately. And they felt at times we were pressing them too hard, but
you had the kids back in school within 30 days.
Yeah, we did.
I mentioned it several times because I still marvel at that. Within 30 days, less than 30 days.
There are some schools in other parishes, and I just, all you can do is they just opened. So we're very fortunate that we're now
4 months later.
We're very fortunate that we were able to, and we were ground zero, by the way. There's no district that has any schools comparable to the damage we have. Not even close.
Yeah.
We were ground zero. And the more southern schools, the east side were more damaged than the north. There was.
Right.
But, even schools like Evergreen, we still have one wing at Evergreen that's not usable.
Still closed, right.
Still closed. Yeah. So, and that's in the northern part of the parish. So nothing was exempt. Our newer schools did better.
Right.
South Down you can see some of the facade on the exterior, some fascia was blown off, but it doesn't interfere with the function of the building.
Right.
Same is true for Grand Caillou Middle. It came through very, very well. Had some minor damage, but even Grand Caillou Middle, even the slightest water intrusion and it stays closed up for a while, you have the concern with mold. So we had to do a lot of remediation, even in those buildings, to make it safe for the kids to go back in.
That even had a little bit less damage, but still had the same concern and still some of the work that needed to be done.
In all the schools, we had that concern, is that nobody wants children in places unless you're certain this is okay.
Well, and speaking of, we're gonna spend some time in the next segment talking a little bit about what it's gonna take and how we get back to some normal for kids. All right, we're gonna take a short break. Don't go anywhere. A lot more with Philip Martin when we continue.
Get $2,000 bonus cash when you order a new F-150 at Terrebonne Ford. Why search all over for the truck you kinda like when you could design the new F-150 you really want? You choose the color, trim, and options you want and get $2,000 order bonus cash. Plus, your new F-150 will get priority in the building process. And get $2,000 order bonus cash. Come see us at Terrebonne Ford in Houma.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker. So very glad you're joining us. Very glad Philip Martin, Superintendent of Terrebonne Parish Schools, joining me. And one of the things that kind of stood out to me, Philip, as you were talking about this $30 million of money. That's a lot of money, but all of that money was money on the front end to really just get the kids back in school. It was done in less than 30 days. But that's that temporary money that they said you can use this money and you can do it quickly. It doesn't always work that way for long-term planning.
No, unfortunately it doesn't. In the emergency basis, you pretty much, your procurement methods, whoever you can find, you can hire. Kind of like people are doing with their homes right now.
Sure.
Like your house, my house, we get a person, a contractor we're happy with, we hire them. Mm-hmm. On the emergency basis, we could do that. That phase has ended. We have now moved into the phase where our normal state law required procurement methods are required by FEMA.
Right.
And procurement means how do you select a contractor? You can't say, I like you, you got the job. It doesn't work that way.
No.
It's like to build a building or repair a building. You can't say, here
Right.
construction company, go fix the building.
Right.
You have to hire an architect and engineer.
Yep.
And to hire the architect and engineer, you have to go through a procurement method.
That's right. They got it. Three bids have to be put in.
You just can't say, you got it.
Right. It's a process.
And then after you have the architect and engineers, they have to design the specs of what work, the scope of work you want done. And obviously that's done in professional language and professional terms.
Sure.
That you and I probably would not be able to do anyway.
I'd have to consult with Kyle Domingue to do that.
Yeah. Well, you need people like that
Right.
to assist with that, and then you have to go get permission to release it for a bid. Then it has to be in a bid period for 30 days or 60 days. I don't remember.
It goes out for bid is what it's
called.
So
my point is that there is a procurement process for everything from this point on that we have to follow. And the reason we have to follow it, it's the law requires it.
Right.
And FEMA, I have to say, has been very supportive of us and very helpful. This is not bashing FEMA in any sort of way, because they have been a partner and helped us through this process. But FEMA won't reimburse you unless you followed your procurement methods.
To the letter.
To the letter. And it's, you know, it's federal bureaucracies, and they have their rules, and they follow them.
That's right. And therefore we have to.
And so we have to.
Right.
You know, the district really didn't borrow $200 million all at once, but we opened a $200 million line of credit, so to speak.
And I want to echo that again. $200 million.
$200 million.
To start.
To start. And
it's an overwhelming number.
It is an overwhelming number. And that's a number no school district can absorb and remain a school district.
No.
So, you know, we're going to be completely dependent upon FEMA. And we borrow the $200 million because FEMA, you spend the money and they pay it back.
Right.
You know,
right.
They don't give it to you and you go spend it. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It's a reimbursement. Well, you know, if you spend $200 million, and we were the Terrebonne Parish was financially solid. The district was financially solid, but there's no school district that can just cough up $200 million.
Nobody's got $200 million in reserves.
It's to cover the cost until we reimburse from FEMA.
Right.
And we have very, very talented people who are making sure that we're doing everything, and FEMA's helping us. You know, if we have questions like, we don't want to jeopardize funding, what's the best route to go with this?
Give us some direction.
And they've been very, very helpful with that. So it is a massive, massive project. I was speaking with some Calcasieu, Laura, it was over a year ago. They're still just beginning some projects. So this is a very long-term involvement in the rebuilding, kind of like our community. You know,
I mean, the community's not going to recover.
My son has a camper trailer in the driveway. You know, I think that's a very common thing now in South Louisiana,
It really is.
or at least in Terrebonne and Lafourche Parish, anyway.
Right.
That, you know, until we get the repairs done, and it's a long, slow, at times painful process, unfortunately. And a lot of people are experiencing that painful process as they're having their own house repaired.
Right, and they're doing that on a smaller scale, and so it's just for what you and what the board is having to, I mean, you know, we talk about, you know, covering a roof that may cost $50,000 or $60,000 for a home, and covering a school that's 5 to 10 times that size.
Yeah, well, to put that in perspective with real numbers, a fairly large house is 3,000 square foot living. That's a
large house.
That's a large house. Well, a school is 180,000 square feet of roof. So
and that's just the roof.
That's just the roof. That's just the roof. And I can't begin to tell you how many roofs are going to have to be changed. Practically all of them.
Yeah, almost all of them.
You know, that they peeled off. And we've had temporary roofs put on. And temporary roofs are just that. They're temporary. And strong winds sometimes do things to those temporary roofs that create another dilemma.
Right. Which is why y'all have worked very diligently. We have about a minute left about working towards the $200 million that we're looking at in repairs to the schools as a starting point. And we appreciate knowing that that's kind of the volume of what we're dealing with.
It's an enormous amount of work, it is, but it's work we will get done. It will happen.
Right, and I know it's starting in your tenure, and it'll go on long after you've retired. Which we're congratulations for the thought process about that. But I love the fact that you're so dedicated in looking forward and guiding this process and helping the board being able to do that, because we have an outstanding board.
We all have a part to do.
Yeah, and it's about showing up every day and doing that, and that's a really big deal about being present and taking care of our parish. And we've been hit harder than most people. We're just really glad that you've been so dedicated and focused on getting the kids back into school, doing it quickly, and doing it for the long haul.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this particular segment of Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Bayou Time when we continue.